What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the numbers. Wait, it's Pub Sports Radio. Sorry, can we restart this? It's too late. It's too late. Welcome to Pub Sports Radio. This is Stat Diggers. I'm half asleep, but I am still here somewhat. We have who's the main event? Payton, Talbott, Cameron, Saaiman. We have UFC Vegas 89 here. And yeah, it should be a card, and it should be a card that we're going to watch. We're going to enjoy. We're going to enjoy breaking it down. I am here, as always, with Uncle Weezy. Uncle Weezy, I think that was the most butchered intro I've done in the last 7 years. But what is up?
You know, I think we can forgive you for it, just like we're going to forgive the matchmakers for this card. You know, Brady, this is what we do. And we got 13 fights here. It was 14. Pilastri's fight fell off because of dengue fever. It'll get you every time. So now we're looking for a new opponent for Julia Pilastri, but still 13 other fights to talk about here. Some debuting fighters, some striker versus grappler matchups. It's going to be an interesting one. I'm looking forward to breaking it down with you.
Yeah, me as well. It was a fun day today, Weezy. I spent all day researching Montserrat Rendon, Jarno Aarons. That guy's pretty fun to watch. Mick Parkin's an exciting fighter. Youssef Zalal. It was a very interesting day, but was able to get most of the research done. Still have some fights to look into, but yeah, looking forward to talking it with you. Before we get into it, if you guys can please leave a like on the video, subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. Jeff saying Kennedy shame. Yeah. Shame. We'll talk about that, but I'm gonna do a quick recap of last night, then we'll get into these fights. So yeah, I loved last night's card from a betting perspective. Actually, I had quite a bit of action. Liked a lot of spots. And my first bet of the card, I had Thiago Moises to win and by submission round 1, and I sprinkled the round 2 as well. And man, I thought he had it in the first round. It looked pretty deep in that first round. The rear naked choke, thought he had it sunk in. Mitch Ramirez did a good job fighting the hands, and it didn't cash, and ended up being Thiago Moises KO3. So I knew right then and there there's going to be some shenanigans on this card. I really like that Moises sub. And then in the Danny Silva fight, I had the fight doesn't go. I really like that spot. I thought it was just going to be an absolute war, an absolute car crash, and it was like in the first 30 seconds. I thought that bet was going to cash in the first minute. Danny Silva drops Holobaugh early on. Goes for the choke, and then it was like a weird stretch of like 7 minutes where Danny Silva just didn't throw a strike. I thought that was weird, but yeah, ended up not cashing that one. My biggest bet of the night was on the fight doesn't go to decision, and Filio Osborne, 3.5 units at minus 235. Probably should have been max bet. That was my favorite spot. There were 2 spots on the card I really liked a lot. It was Mike Davis to destroy Levy, and then also the fight doesn't go in the Filio fight. I had 1.5 units on Mike Davis to win inside the distance, plus 165. I thought that was kind of off considering he was minus 500. I thought he was better everywhere than Levy. Thought it could be knockout, could be sub, ended up being sub. I had 0.75 units on Mearshart round 2 at plus 470. That was big. And then it just went all crap from there. Didn't have anything on the Macy fight. I had, this one hurt the most. So over the last, I've been betting for I think 7 years now, almost 8, and I've had a lot of bad beats, so I'm pretty much numb to them now. But I mean, probably the worst bad beat of my life was Christian Rodriguez round 3 at plus 2200. Like sometimes you just got to say what the fuck, what the fuck, like it was right there. I thought Rodriguez had him dead to rights. Like I looked up at the clock, and Dalgarian looked done with 4 minutes left in the third round. He gets into every dominant position possible, flattens him out. I mean, and somehow, some way doesn't finish him in round 3, plus 2,200. Also had the fight doesn't go to decision at a pick'em minus 115. It was an 8-unit swing for me, that fight going the distance. So that one, I'd be lying if I said that one didn't completely sting. And then I had Kennedy 2-3, which I kind of like the read outside of Kennedy just not showing up. I was happy that the fight reached the second round because I think the majority of people, including me, thought it probably does end in the first. So I was like, yes, the fight got to the second round. Kennedy's about to cash this 2-3 for me. No. Like, MMA is so weird, dude. Like, OSP last night landed 143 significant strikes. Weezy, when was the last time OSP landed 100 strikes?
100. I'll have to look, but I mean,
Never.
dude. I mean,
Never.
yeah, I mean, come on, yeah. I mean, if he fought for, I mean, even the John Jones fight, he probably didn't even get 50, and that was 5 rounds.
He never reached 100 significant strikes. The most he got before that fight, I think, was 76.
Was it the Ozdemir fight?
Yeah, it was that one.
Yeah, because I know that one he landed. He had a good third round in that fight, but I mean, well, you were in high school when he fought Ozdemir, for Christ's sake. You know, it was so long ago. Yeah, dude. I mean, like he turned back the clock last night.
143 significant strikes, drops Kennedy in the third round. Luckily, I didn't parlay Kennedy for obvious reasons. But if I did parlay Kennedy, which I'm assuming like a lot of parlays were anchored on him because, you know, I didn't see anybody pick OSP. How could you pick OSP? But he certainly turned back the clock last night. Kennedy looked rough. He just never got going. OSP was able to outland him in pretty much every single round. So I thought that was just a weird, very weird outcome because I thought OSP was kind of done. I was saying this guy hasn't looked good in the last 4 or 5 years, and he shows up last night and has his best performance in like almost like 6-7 years. Like, it was crazy that fight. So lost the 2-3 props on Kennedy. No shame in that. I had battle late sub props. Angelusa, that fight got turned into a no contest. And then probably my least favorite bets of the night were the Tai lost at KO1, KO2. I thought that was his win condition. And I knew obviously if he got taken down, it was over. And that was that. So yeah, man, really wanted to hit that violence on the Bulgarian fight, that Rodriguez round 3. So ended up down about a unit 0.25, 26, which, you know, it kind of sucks because I did like a lot of reads on the card. I did hit a nice prize picks play though, a 4-legger. So that was good, but yeah, tracked down 1.26 units. I actually thought the card was good like I enjoyed the card quite a bit. I know people were crapping on it, but I thought it was a fun card. Weezy, how'd you enjoy the card last night?
Yeah, I enjoyed the fights. I mean, I was really looking forward to Bulgarian versus C-Rod, and man, did that fight deliver from a fan perspective. That was a really high-level fight. Those guys pretty much left it all in the cage, and it was back and forth. It was a war. It was a great fight. But my betting night was the opposite of that. I got blasted in the ass last night, Brady. Lost all 4 bets. One bet was the under 1.5 rounds in the Moises Ramirez fight. Moises had his back for about 3.5 minutes in the first round and couldn't finish. That one is down 1 unit. I had 1 unit on actually, oh boy, the over 2.5 rounds in the Amorim McKenna fight. And you know how it is, man. Amorim, all first round finishes coming up to the UFC. She can't finish Sam Hughes. She can't finish Montserrat Rendon until the 3rd round. And then she finishes Corey McKenna in less than a minute. So the over 2.5 rounds there at minus 185. Rest in peace. And with it goes the greasy 4-leg parlay for the week, because that was the first leg of the greasy 4-legger. And then we had the under 2.5 rounds in the Silva versus Holobaugh fight. And it was a banger. It was a back and forth fight. Silva almost finished him in the first minute of the fight. But, you know, just another bad beat. It was close to cashing several times. And then I had the under 2.5 rounds for C-Rod versus Bulgarian. And C-Rod almost had him out of there in the 3rd. Bulgarian almost had him out of there in the 1st. It was a wild back and forth fight. I'd make that bet again. I'd make the Moises bet again because he's a very slick submission grappler. But who would have known? He got it done with leg kicks instead. But that was a great performance by Thiago Moises. Great performance by Chad Anheliger to start off the card. At 37 years old, fights a debuting fighter in Gregorio and goes out there and has a pretty clean win. Good job on him. Good job on Jacqueline Amorim getting that first round submission win. That was a phenomenal performance, and that's a good win over Corey McKenna. There were a lot of really good performances last night. We didn't see Mike Davis for 1.5 years. We probably won't see him until late 2025, but I hope we see him sooner. And, you know, he kind of because I was saying, like, why doesn't he fight? And he basically admitted it in the cage after the fight. He's like, I just don't enjoy fighting. I'm extremely good at it, so I do it so I can provide for my family. And I love the honesty about that. I think that's really cool. But yeah, he just doesn't seem to enjoy fighting. And I mean, I get it. I mean, it's definitely not for everybody. But he's just phenomenally talented, and he showed it again. Man, I'd love if he could get just a little bit more comfortable with fighting, because he's so damn good at it, because you can make so many really intriguing matchups with Mike Davis right now. So he was calling out Paddy Pimblett. He was calling out a couple of different people that would be really fun fights. But yeah, I don't think the UFC is going to feed Pimblett to Davis, because that wouldn't be a fair fight, I don't think. Yeah, and then some wild stuff. I mean, obviously the shenanigans in the cage after the Battle Lusa fight, that was wild. Kennedy and Chekwu. What was that, dude? I mean, get some help, Kennedy and Chekwu. What the hell was that, man? Wow. Ovince St. Preux landed 140 significant strikes, Brady. How the hell? What would can you imagine if, like, as some kind of a teaser, as a joke, you called up Bet Online and be like, hey, what's the line on Ovince St. Preux over 135 and a half significant strikes? You would have got like plus 20,000.
Yeah. Just wild, man.
And then a great performance by Marcin. Horrible betting performance by me, but Brady, it's one of those things. It's process over results. And of course, the results really are what matter. But I didn't hate my bets last night. I liked the Silva Holobaugh under 2.5 bet. I liked the C-Rod Bulgarian under 2.5 bet. I liked the under 1.5 bet for Thiago Moises at plus money. And I really dislike now the over 2.5 bet for McKenna Amarim. I should have been on Amarim first round submission there too, because she is just so dangerous early in fights when the opponent is dry, and then she can get those submissions. But yeah, on to this week, man. I'm looking to get this back. It's been a rough little stretch the last 3 weeks for me, but we gotta circle the fucking wagons, Brady. We gotta get our heads out of our asses from last week and get back on the winning ways this week. And I'm running through a wall to do it. I'm fired up because I leave for Europe on Sunday. So I got to get the job done this week before I go and enjoy myself, pimping my way through Paris and Rome. So yeah, we're gonna buy the money right now. We're gonna get it in order to enjoy this Europe trip for the next 2 weeks. So we got to put the work in tonight, brother.
Yep, and it all starts with Muhammad Usman and Mick Parkin. Looking forward to talking about these
go.
fights here. Do want to shout out the chat before we get started. Dixon saying, cut Kennedy. Yeah, I mean, that was quite a performance. I think he's on a 2-fight skid, right? Not a 3. I think he's on a 2-fight skid. Got knocked out by Jacoby and lost a decision to OSP. Yeah, if he loses one more, he might be done. We got DJN for Life, Olajuwon. We got Jeff. We got Pickle, Remdog, Peter, Propaholic, Stano Picks, Justin, Vallejos, Wayne. People in the chat saying that the Rodriguez-Bulgarian fight was a robbery. So this is how I scored it, and we talked about it a little bit last night, Weezy, but I had the first round scored as a 10-8, which I think the majority of the judges did. I had the second round 10-9 for Bulgarian, and then I had the third round 10-8 for Rodriguez. So I thought Bulgarian won. How did you see it, Weezy?
Saw it exactly the same as you saw it. And it's the damage over control thing. Brady, as gamblers, that is something that's getting to be a little bit more consistent these days. But that seems a little bit ridiculous to me. It's like you just want to ignore somebody getting control for 4 minutes and 10 seconds of a round and then pretend that the only seconds in the round that mattered were the ones that C-Rod landed shots. For me, that fight was phenomenal. They were so well matched. A draw would have been a fine result for that, but I had it Bulgarian 28-27. But you know, it is what it is, man. This is becoming more consistent where you can lose 4 minutes and 45 seconds of a round, land one big shot, and those guys scoring the fight will give it to you and pretend like, you know, octagon control means nothing, pressure means nothing, wrestling means nothing, you know, control time means nothing, top control means nothing. None of it only matters if you land a punch. So
Yeah.
we got to be cognizant of it going forward. We just have no choice, do we?
Mm-hmm. Did you see that Bulgarian accused Rodriguez of cheating?
Yeah, said something like he might have been greased. That's wild. Who knows, man? Who knows? You know, it's hard to take your first loss, especially like that, Brady. Wow, that's a tough way to take a loss. You 10-8 your opponent in the first. You get 4 minutes and 10 seconds of control time in the second, and then you gut through a hellacious round 3. Show a ton of heart. Stay in that fight. Keep moving, even though Rodriguez was just dominating them. I mean, just a phenomenal performance by both guys. And I'd rather talk about the phenomenal performance of C-Rod, the phenomenal performance of Isaac Bulgarian, rather than dwell on the judges maybe not getting it right, because both of those kids are on a straight upward trajectory and they got phenomenal futures in the organization.
Yeah, both guys have just a ton of upside. I'm curious as to who they match up Rodriguez against next time, because they've just been matching up with prospect after prospect, like Saaiman, Raul Rosas, Bulgarian. He keeps on winning. So yeah, I think Rodriguez is the real deal, as is Bulgarian. But Weezy, we'll get into some fights here. We have UFC Vegas 89. We have Cameron Saaiman going against Payton Talbott. That's my main event, but I think the actual main event is it's Amanda Ribas, Rose Namajunas, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, but the people's main event is Saaiman and Talbot for sure. All
Disagree. I'm going to go with Usman Parkin. That's how we're kicking off the card. We're saving the best for first, ladies and gentlemen. These are two guys who make Ovince St. Preux look like a high volume striker, like he did last night, right?
You should have stopped right there. You should have said these are two guys, and then just stopped, and just kicked it over to me. So these are two guys, and they're going to be going at it. We got Muhammad Usman going against Mick Parkin. We got Usman, 34 years old, 6'2" with a 79-inch reach. Mick Parkin, 28 years old, 6'4" with a 79-inch reach. Parkin, 6 years younger. Parkin with a 2-inch height advantage and the same reach there for both guys. Usman is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Made his debut against Zach Pauga. Won that fight by second-round knockout. Beat Junior Tafa by decision and Jake Collier by decision. As far as Mick Parkin, he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Had a first-round submission win on the Contender Series against Neves. He had a decision win against Jamal Pogues and then a decision win against Caio Machado. So, yeah, Mick Parkin, the last time out, was a pretty big favorite. I want to say he was like around minus 300, and that fight was a lot closer than I kind of expected it to be. Mick Parkin kind of struggled at distance in that fight a lot more than I thought he would, but he was able to kind of get takedowns and win the fight, win minutes on the mat there. But yeah, this should be an interesting fight here. I think the more skilled fighter here is probably Mick Parkin, but Usman just keeps on getting it done. Like Usman, I think he's making improvements. He's getting better. Like you go and watch this guy a couple years ago. I think he lost to like Dontel Mays a few years ago. But now I think he's putting it together a little bit. I think it's a well-matched fight here. I think both these guys are pretty similar in skill. And I think the line is probably going to indicate that. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this first fight of the card?
Yeah, Parkin's still only 28 years old, and he's a big heavyweight. So, it's going to be difficult for Muhammad to take him down. And if, I kind of feel like, and you might feel the same way, Brady, that if Muhammad doesn't get a takedown against Mick, I think Mick's going to outbox him. Would you agree with that?
That's exactly how I'm seeing it.
Yeah, I'm seeing it the same way because I like Mick's boxing a lot better than Muhammad's. Muhammad flashes some power, but he's a little bit low volume on the feet from what I've seen, especially back in the house when he was on The Ultimate Fighter. But, Usman's good, man. I mean, he's landed a knockdown. He's got a UFC win by knockout. He's demonstrated the ability to be able to wrestle and get takedowns and win minutes that way. And whether he's throwing power shots in the feet or whether he's wrestling, he's also showing that he can do it for the full 3 rounds, which is impressive at the heavyweight level. I mean, you look at those grappling numbers on offense for Usman. Yeah, 3 of 16 on takedowns. That's very low percentage. It's not great, but at least he's attempting 6.74 takedowns per 15 minutes. So he is committing to the wrestling, and he's spending almost 50% of his time in control time positions, and he's winning about 95% of those control time positions. So for me, I definitely favor Parkin on the feet. And Parkin has stuffed both takedowns that have come his way, and he's been controlled for less than 6% of his UFC cage time. So I think Mick will be more accurate on the feet, and I tend to think he's going to be a little bit busier on the feet as well at range, even though you see the numbers there indicate that Usman actually throws more strikes per minute at distance. But I think it was because he was in there against a couple of guys like Tafa and Collier, who are going to push the pace on the feet against you, especially Junior Tafa, who's more of a volume guy compared to his brother Justin, who we'll be talking about later, who's more of a power guy looking to set up that one big shot. So I think Usman probably loses the minutes on the feet here to Parkin. I think Usman probably wins the minutes on the ground against Parkin. I tend to think the fight goes to decision here, but I think the bookies are on to that one too, Brady. So Mick Parkin by decision?
Yeah.
Hey, after last week, man, we're not counting takedowns and control time anymore.
We're not.
I think I'll go with Mick Parkin.
There we go. We got Lou Betcha in the building. What is up, Lou? Did you leave some teas in the fairway in Florida? I know people love that.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. So Lou gave me some great advice before golfing. And what he said is what you do is you tee up your second shot in the fairway.
Oh, gosh.
And yeah. It's a real prick move, but I think it's also very classy because you can hit it further and it's not cheating. And then what you want to make sure is that it's a pink tee and that you leave it in for the next people to see and be like, what the hell? Who's teeing up the ball in the fairway? But by the way, Brady,
Yes.
2 birdies, 3 pars, and
Okay.
finished up on 18, sinking a 50-foot birdie putt.
Dang.
It was absolutely amazing, and I was absolutely crushing the driver. So being with my old man down in Florida, golfing in the beautiful sun, it really brought your Uncle Weezy back to life, and the golf came with it. So good to see Lou in here, who gave me some phenomenal advice on how to piss off the other Florida golfers.
Dude, I always play my best golf in Florida for some reason. Just the vibes in Florida compared to my shit golf course here in town. Like they do a shit job taking care of it. But we got Cody Blood Money in the building. What is up? Good to see you. Good to see you. Holy smokes, Usman landed 7 strikes in a unanimous decision over Junior Tafa. Yeah, and like Weezy just said, they are not scoring control these days. So yeah, it's same thing for me, Weezy. I think it's Mick Parkin because at distance, although not in love with Mick Parson, striking, I think it's a lot better than Usman's easily. I think he's a lot more active than Usman. Should be able to easily outland him at range there. But if Usman does get him down, maybe he can make this fight close. And the line is pretty close. We have Mick Parkin minus 140 and Muhammad Usman plus 120. The over 2.5, you don't see this often at all in the heavyweight division, but the over 2.5 is minus 175. The under 2.5 is plus 145. And even at those odds, I still think it goes over. I just struggle to see who possibly gets a finish in this fight. So same thing for me. I think the fight goes Parkin by decision, but I'd be shocked if I'm touching this one. Any thoughts on that total? Minus 175 at heavyweight.
Minus 175 for an over. Yeah. And I mean, these things are finishing inside the distance, something like here. Let me look at the prop template. 61% of the time. So yeah, it's risky to do that. You should be getting, just on the divisional average, you should be getting like a plus 155 for a fight goes, and you're paying, minus 170 on an over 2.5. Yeah. I mean, I think it hits though. I think it hits stylistically. I think it's a good read that it goes over, but it's always just, man, betting overs in heavyweight fights. It's not good for your nerves. It's not good for your long-term mental health, in my opinion.
Yeah. Peter saying value on the over here somehow. It could look value by the end of the night. It could look value for sure. For this upcoming card, like Miles John. Is it Miles John's coming off of a cocaine suspension, or am I thinking of someone else?
Was he cocaine? I didn't hear. I don't remember it because he definitely got his last fight overturned to a no contest. But what's weird about that is that he's fighting less than 6 months later, so it couldn't have been like a performance enhancing drug.
I think I saw cocaine. He was hanging out
Huh.
with Ronderos, I think.
Yeah, if he's hanging out with Ronderos, that'll happen. I mean, that dude loves his cocaine, and he's from Colombia.
And I think they're both bantamweights.
Oh wow, no, Ronderos is a flyweight.
Oh, he was. Okay.
Yeah, that cocaine will keep you nice and slim.
Yes, it will. All right, Weezy. We'll move on to the next fight. We got Igor Da Silva going against Andre Lima in what should actually be a fun fight. I'm actually looking forward to this one. I think this is one of the better fights on the prelims. We have two newcomers, both guys making their debuts, both guys coming off of Contender Series wins. We got Igor Da Silva. He's only 20 years old, 5'7" with a 69-inch reach. Andre Lima, 25 years old, 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. Silva, 5 years younger, same height, and he's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. Silva's training over at Shoot the Box with, I think, Joe Anderson, Britu, and I think Mel Koss is over there as well. But yeah, Igor Da Silva, he's 5-0 in his last 5 fights. He went out there against Jonathan Da Silva, finished him by knockout. I think it was in the second round. And as far as Andre Lima, won just a one-sided decision on the Contender Series his last time out. Pretty good win there. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a fun fight. You know, Igor Da Silva is a guy that has never been the distance in all 8 of his fights. He's a guy that leaves a lot of openings defensively, but very aggressive offensively. He can mix in takedowns. He can wrestle. His cardio looks solid, but yeah, defensively kind of scares me a little bit. Andre Lima, definitely the more defensively sound fighter. I like his pressure. I think his takedown defense could maybe be an issue in this fight. I think it's going to be a war. I think Igor Da Silva is going to bring out a war in this fight. And I think somebody might potentially get served. And I think the odds makers are kind of thinking the same, where they're setting this line at 1.5, which kind of surprised me. But yeah, this should be fun, Weezy. I think it's a very underrated fight with two newcomers here.
Yeah, I mean, when I watched the tape on these guys from the Contender Series and the fight before the Contender Series, I was a little more impressed with Silva, but boy, I mean, like you touched on it. I saw the exact same thing. This guy does not give a shit about defense at all. He goes in that pocket swinging. Really sweet little check left hook that he has. And Lima, he's got heavy hands. He's primarily a boxer. He's going to kind of walk forward and really try to land those hands on you. But Igor Da Silva will always be countering in that pocket. He's very comfortable there. Another thing that I liked about Da Silva is that I thought that his level of competition for a guy that's only 20 years old was a little bit better than Lima's. Like we saw Lima fighting in Spartacus MMA, while Igor Da Silva won the Jungle Fight Flyweight Championship. I think he might have been 19 when he won it. That's really impressive. And Jungle Fight is a good organization down there in South America. Jungle Fight, Combate, obviously, are two of the best down there. And this kid was champion. Also, you look at a guy like Lima, he's been the distance twice. While I don't exactly know what Igor Da Silva's cardio would look like in a third round, we've seen Lima comfortably go 3 rounds a couple of different times, and he's undefeated in decisions. But what we see from Da Silva is a very aggressive guy who's just as likely to win by submission as he is by KO. Silva's younger. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage. I think he's faced the better brand of competition and had 5-round experience as well. So I'm leaning Da Silva here, and he is the underdog.
Yeah, he is. And by the way, Miles Johns did not test positive for cocaine. There was actually like a ton of outlets posted that he tested positive for cocaine.
That's right.
There's that whole situation that Miles Johns got pissed. He was like, no, I didn't test positive for cocaine. So yeah, a ton of outlets posted it, ended up not being true. Not sure what he did test positive for though. But yeah, 6 months suspension.
6 months. Okay, so it could have been something like even like a prescription drug, like Adderall. Like remember Myra Bueno Silva tested positive for Adderall in the home fight, and that got overturned to a no contest. But then her next fight was for the title, So as long as it's not something, if it's only a 6-month suspension, it probably wasn't something performance enhancing.
Yeah, so it looks like he was
Pink
not
Floyd
hanging
says
out.
Adderall.
Yeah, he was not hanging out with Juan Camilo Ronderos then, so that's good.
Unless he was the designated driver, which I think Juan Camilo might need.
Yes, he definitely needs one. Wayne asking, what's wrong with cocaine?
Well, if you're going to be driving, lots. If you need to actually achieve things in life, lots. If you have an addictive personality, lots. Maybe if you really mean that, Wayne, I would suggest you go watch Conor McGregor being interviewed at the premiere for Roadhouse. And then you will find out that cocaine is a hell of a drug, just like Rick James famously said a couple of years before he died from the ravages of what? Cocaine.
Well said. Goodness. So Lima is -170 and Igor da Silva is +145. The over-under, like I said, is set at 1.5. The over 1.5 got smashed. Of course, it is now -260, and the under 1.5 is +200. I wouldn't mind looking at like an alternative, like under 2.5 for these two. I think da Silva is going to bring out a war. All offense, no defense.
Yeah, I agree. And Lima's got heavy hands too. So if Da Silva leaves some openings, I could see Lima, a guy with 5 knockouts in his career, landing some shots. And yeah, dude, by the way, Igor da Silva is 20 years old and his pro career has lasted over 5 years. Yeah. He turned pro when he was 15.
Crazy.
I mean, some of these guys are just crazy, and he's jungle fight champion at the age of 20. I mean, this kid has achieved a lot already. And Lima's got 7 pro fights, Brady, and his pro career has only lasted 1 year and 4 months. So he's been incredibly busy.
Yeah, I like both these guys. I think this fight's going to be pretty good. I like the matchmaking here.
Me too. Absolutely. Get those contender series guys, square them off against each other. High energy fight with both guys having a lot of offensive skills. So it'll be a real fun one.
Absolutely. All right, Weezy, we'll move on to the next fight. We got Montserrat Rendon going against Daria Zelnikova. We got Rendon, 34 years old, 5'8" with a 68-inch reach. Zelnikova, she is 28 years old, 5'9". It's going to be Zelnikova, 6 years younger with a 1-inch height advantage. Rendon is 5-0 in her last 5 fights, all decisions, 0 finishes in 6 fights for Montserrat Rendon. And then Zelnikova, she is 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Her loss comes to Melissa Dixon, who's currently in the UFC. So, yeah, I was actually impressed with Daria. I think she's a really good striker. I remember her fight with Dixon where she was piecing up Dixon for like the first, half of the round. Ended up getting taken down and finished shortly after, but she looked really good on the feet prior to that, and she looks really good on the feet in all of her fights. I think her striking's really good, fast hands, sneaky power. She beat up Luana Jojua. No offense, Luke, if you're watching, I'm sorry, but yeah, she beat up Luana Jojua across 15 minutes. I think she's a really good striker, but Montserrat Rendon, I think she could potentially get this fight down to the mat, make things interesting. Did not really love the striking of Rendon, but what she can do is get fights to the ground, and we've seen Daria taken down and controlled a little bit. So I think I see this kind of as like a striker versus grappler matchup where I think Daria is going to have the striking advantage. I love her striking, but I also feel like Rendon, if she gets this fight down to the match, she could potentially win minutes. So Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, I thought last time out that Rendon would have a chance to win by decision against Tamaris Vidal, and I never bet it, and I was really mad at myself because she got that win as an underdog. And Montserrat's pretty easy to cap. I think she's a former triathlete, Brady. If it's not that, it's something else that takes a ton of cardio. So she's got really good cardio. All 6 of her fights have seen the scorecards, and she's got 100 minutes of cage time in 6 fights, which means that one of the fights was a 5-round fight. So Montserrat's going to bring pace. She's very durable. She can definitely take a shot, and it's a good thing she can because she blocks punches with her face, man. But she is durable. She's got a ton of conditioning. She's going to be there for the full 15 minutes. Now, if she can get Zelezniakova and get on down and get on top, she can win minutes there. I don't know if she's going to really win moments anywhere in this fight against Daria, but man, on the feet, Daria is explosive, and she's got really good striking. If she can keep this fight standing, and not gas out, I think that she should be the far more dangerous fighter. I mean, like in terms of the danger factor of being able to finish a fight, you got somebody with Zalesniakova in 5 finishes in 8 wins, with Rendon 0 finishes and 6 wins. So Rendon is going to count on output, throwing constantly and being able to keep up that pace and take everything that you dish out for the full 15 minutes. But I do think that Zalesniakova will be landing the much bigger shots. She's the way cleaner striker. And we don't judge. The judges don't give a shit about control time anymore. So somebody like Rendon, who's landing about 2.43 significant strikes per minute in control time positions thus far, it's not great, so why not go on the Zalesniakova side here a little bit more? I love that she's 7 years younger too. I mean, Montserrat's almost 35 years old. So she's fairly new to the sport too, with less than a 4-year pro career. So I like Zalesniakova here.
Yeah, I'm picking her to win too. She opened up -180. She's currently -180. Rendon opened up +150. She's currently +155. The over under set at 2.5. The over 2.5 is -280. The under 2.5 is +220.
Over 2.5's a parlay piece. Rendon's very durable, and Rendon, she can't bust a grape, man. She needs to ask her significant other to open the pop bottle for her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. So I'm seeing it same. Zelnikova by decision. All right, so let's keep moving on. We have Jarno Aarons going against Stephen Wynn. We got Jarno Aarons, 29 years old, 5'11" with a 73-inch reach. Stephen Wynn, he's 30 years old, 5'11" with a 73-inch reach. Aarons 1 year younger, same height, same reach. Jarno Aarons is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Made his debut against William Gomez, lost that fight by decision, and then lost to Sungwoo Choi by decision. As far as Stephen Wynn, he's 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Had a knockout loss on the Contender Series. Just had a knockout win on the Contender Series as well. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that Stephen Wynn actually fought on the Contender Series 3 times. He has a decision win, a knockout win, and then a knockout loss to Alon Cruz as well. So, yeah, I mean, he had a really good performance against AJ Cunningham in his last fight. He went out there, and the fight probably should have been stopped in the first round, but Cunningham showed a lot of toughness, was able to survive. The ref didn't stop it. And then in the second round, Stephen Wynn just completely put it on him. Yeah, it's win here for me. I'm not a big fan of Jarno Aarons. I don't really know what he's doing in the UFC. Losing to William Gomi and Sungwoo Choi, not the worst losses in the world, but I mean, come on. Just not really showing much in those fights. Very, very low volume. I think all the volume is going to be in favor of Wynn. I think this fight primarily plays out in the feet. So I'm kind of thinking Wynn volume-based decision. Maybe Wynn can even mix in a takedown or 2 as well, but I'm going Wynn here for this fight. I think Wynn's a pretty big favorite as well. We don't have a ton of favorites past -200, but Wynn is one of those favorites. I think he's the second biggest favorite on the card at only -210, believe it or not.
Wow. Yeah, that's what happens when you have good matchmaking. You don't get a bunch of -700 lines. So that's a good thing, but I mean, I liked Stephen Wynn's performance against AJ Cunningham, but let's face it, AJ Cunningham's a heavy bag.
Yeah.
If somebody goes out there and beats the hell out of a heavy bag and then is a -210 favorite to a guy who's been out there against Sungwoo Choi and William Gomi, I mean, to me, this is absolutely dog or pass on the money line. But, I got to be honest, I haven't looked into it. I remember Wynn's fights. I remember the Theo Relang fight was terrible. I remember it being terrible, but I don't think it was Steven's fault. I think it was Theo's fault that it was terrible. I think kind of Theo ran, if I remember correctly. But AJ Cunningham is just, I mean, he performed really well in that fight, but AJ Cunningham just really isn't that good. So I wouldn't want to get too out over my skis just because someone, blasted Cunningham, so I think Aarons has been decent. Okay. I mean, I guess the Gomez fight was kind of close. The Sung-Woo Choi fight was kind of close. So maybe he can pull this off. Maybe he makes it look a lot closer than it is, and then maybe he's the value side. But I have to look more into it, but I really don't want to, Brady.
No. Watching Jarno Aarons is like watching paint dry. Just very boring. Not a lot going on.
And I remember that Win Relang fight on Dana White's Contender Series. His second performance was just a kind of a yawner too. So yeah, I don't know about this one, man. I wish them both the best, though.
Yes, that's all you ever can do is just wish them both the best. Yeah, Stephen Wynn is minus 210. Aaron's plus 180. Stephen Wynn is, like I said, the second biggest favorite on the card, right behind Karl Williams, who's currently the biggest favorite, believe it or not. When it's all said and done, Wynn might be the biggest favorite because I think money's coming in on Tafa, actually. So it's one of those weeks. The over 2.5 is juiced to minus 200. And I kind of agree. I think this fight goes to decision, but don't really want to lay minus 200 on. This is a total pass for me here.
Yeah, I mean, Wynn's finished 7 of his 9 wins, but Jarno's only been finished in one of his 5 losses. He's a super tough guy. And, you know, Jarno, I mean, a 61% finish rate in 13 wins, all of those wins, as a matter of fact, coming on the European regional scene. So you'd like to see a higher finish rate than that. But Wynn has been knocked out in his only loss. In his only loss, and that was to Elon Cruz on Dana White's Contender Series. So, yeah, God, boy, I don't know about this one, dude. I just don't know.
What do you know about this one? Chris Weidman versus Bruno Silva. Can you believe that? I swear.
Wait, I think that's not this week, though. That's March 24th is the day after this card.
Yeah, it's not this week. It is.
Is that Atlantic City because Weidman's a New Yorker?
It's the Blanchfield Fiora fight. Yes.
Chris Weidman. Didn't he say he was? He wants to be champ again, right?
I think he did say that. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He did. So he's got to get through Bruno Silva first.
Man, what do you think the line on that is?
I mean, Bruno minus 200.
Oh, you're close. Silva minus 260.
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
Oh boy.
Weidman probably shouldn't be fighting, but that's going to be interesting. It's in the name. Yeah, I mean Dixon's right. Win.
Yep. Win.
Stephen
Win.
Absolutely. What is up, old E? All right, let's move on from this mess to a fight that I think is actually going to be pretty solid here. We got Miles Johns going against Cody Gibson. We got Miles Johns, who is 29 years old, 5'7" with a 66-inch reach. Cody Gibson, he is 36 years old, 5'10" with a 71-inch reach. We got Miles Johns 7 years younger. Cody Gibson with a 3-inch height advantage and a 5-inch reach advantage. Miles Johns is a 3-1 and won no contest in his last 5 fights. He had a knockout win against Kevin Natividad, knockout win against Anderson Dos Santos, submission loss to John Castaneda, decision win against Vince Morales, and then a no contest against Dan Argueta in a fight that he won, but it got overturned. As far as Cody Gibson, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He went out there in his return from the UFC. He's fought in the UFC before, but returned to the UFC and put on one of the better fights of the year last year against Brad Katona. Like, that fight was so good that even in a loss, Dana White decided to sign Cody Gibson. And why not? I mean, Cody Gibson showed a ton of heart, a ton of volume. Just put on, like I said, a very, very fun fight here. So, yeah, this fight's pretty interesting. Cody Gibson is going to be older, but he's going to be much bigger here, a height reach advantage. Isn't somebody taking this fight on short notice, Weezy? I could have swore.
Yeah, because Gibson was supposed to fight somebody else. I forgot who already, but Gibson's opponent dropped out. Miles took the fight on short notice.
Davey Grant. It's supposed to be Davey Grant versus Cody Gibson.
That was going to be a banger. A couple of the elder statesmen of the bantamweight division, but now we got the almost 30-year-old Miles Johns jumping in here on short notice.
Yep, and off of a short suspension as well. So yeah, pretty closely lined fight. I think one of the closer line fights on this card. This fight should be fun. We have Miles Johns, who I think has very underrated striking. Obviously has a wrestling background, and Cody Gibson, just a long rangy guy with a ton of volume, great cardio in his own right. So yeah, it should be a fun fight here. Weezy, what do you think of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be a banger. John's on short notice. As long as the conditioning is good, I think that this is going to be a really fun fight. A couple interesting stats here. 7-0 is Miles Johns in decisions. So this guy's done a great job of winning minutes over his career. He's got 6 wins by finish, 7 by decision. So Miles does flash some power on the feet. He can wrestle and get a submission as well. He's a well-rounded fighter, and he hits hard, man. He does love to counter. He's very low volume, Miles Johns, only 9.66 distance strike attempts per minute spent at distance. So he gets out-volumed by his opponents, but his distance defense is excellent at almost 75%. His takedown offense is terrible. 4 for 28, dude, 14% on his takedowns. And he's got below average grappling efficiency. He only wins 46% of the control time positions, but he's attempting about 60% of the total takedowns in his fights. So he needs to get a little more efficient there, but it's not like Cody Gibson is this guy that's winning a ton of minutes on the ground either. Gibson has fought the better brand of competition according to my metric overall. But Miles is younger. I think he hits a little bit harder. I mean, Cody does have decent power numbers, but we didn't see him really getting Katona even anywhere close to out of there, even though it was a really fun, high volume fight. I don't exactly know what to think of this one, but Cody has fought the better names. When you look at Argueta, Morales, Castaneda, Anderson Dos Santos, and Kevin Natividad for Miles Johns. And then you look at guys like John Dodson, Ray Borg, Cisco Rivera, Brad Katona. And then before that, Gibson fought Aljamain Sterling in the UFC. He's fought some good names. So I like John's youth. I like the power. I like the well-rounded skill set, and I like the ability to find that way to win minutes because he's been doing it for his whole career. And he does find those power shots every once in a while, like he did in the Natividad and Dos Santos fights. So I think it's going to be a fun one. I'm looking for Johns to get this win, I think, but not with a lot of confidence here.
Yeah, Johns opened up -150s, currently -128. Gibson opened up +130s, currently +108. So the over is -210, the under +170. Any thoughts on the total? I think the total is kind of interesting here.
Yeah, Johns has been finished in both of his losses. Cody Gibson's been finished in 4 of 9 losses. So, I mean, we're talking about 6 of their 11 combined losses are inside the distance. And Johns has finished 2 of 4 UFC wins. Gibson's finished his only UFC win. So, I mean, this could be a sneaky under here. I think that these guys are going to throw down. Johns is on short notice here, and both these guys are dangerous wherever the fight goes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe like a sneaky under as well. It's decent plus money, but I think it could be probably one of those fights where they both have like big moments, land big shots, but it might go the full 15, one of those. But yeah, under 2.5 at +170, I don't think is like the worst look in the world. Moments versus minutes, potentially. Like Miles Johns, more of a power guy, Gibson more of a volume guy. Could look like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Gibson is a lot more active at range than Johns, but John's a lot more efficient on the feet. His boxing is crisp. He's accurate, and he's extremely defensively responsible.
Yeah, very. I mean, 68% striking defense, right? Something like that.
74.69% distance. That's the distance striking defense,
Which is
but
crazy.
it's actually 71% overall. So Miles knows how to not get hit. And when you know how to not get hit, you're gonna win those minutes. So I just think it's a decent spot for him, but we have to take that short notice into account because Cody's a guy who's gonna push a pace. He's gonna be there. He's gonna stay in your face. He's gonna pressure. So this is gonna be a fun one.
We got Kiwi. Shout out to Kiwi for the $20 dono. He says, "What the hell is Zalal doing?" He says, 3 fights in one night. That is interesting. Yeah, I think it was that King of Sparta tournament that they do, where I think it's a kickboxing fight, a boxing fight, and then an MMA fight to end the night. And he became King of Sparta. So yeah, he had a boxing fight, won that by decision. He won the kickboxing fight by second round knockout, and then he won the MMA fight by first round submission. So yeah, he's the King of Sparta, Weezy.
That's huge, man. And it's good to see Youssef back because he was he got 3 wins right off the bat, very young. And he came into the UFC off this beautiful flying knee knockout in LFA, a Factory X product. The kid's still very young, and he's had some tough losses. I mean, Ilya Tapuria, I heard that guy's pretty good. Sung Woo Choi is a solid fighter, and he lost a unanimous decision to him. Had a close fight with Sean Woodson. He had a draw against a stud in Damon Blackshear, and wins over guys like Lingo, Griffin, and the extremely slippery Pete Barrett.
He's very slippery.
Extremely slippery.
Jacoby won it. Yeah, I think I was watching Zalal's fight, and I think Jacoby was commentating, actually. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But
that's how Jacoby got back in just before Dana White's Contender Series. I remember he beat Cody East and a couple other guys in that same Sparta tournament.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. All right. So yeah, we'll move on to the next fight. We have a very good fight. I think this fight's going to be very fun. We got Ricardo Ramos going against Julian Erosa. We got Ricardo Ramos, who is 28 years old, 5'9", with a 72-inch reach. Julian Erosa, 34 years old, 6'1", with a 74-inch reach. We got Ricardo Ramos, who's going to be 6 years younger. It's going to be Julian Erosa with a 4-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. We got Ricardo Ramos is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Knockout loss to Lerone Murphy. Decision win against Bill Algeo. Decision loss to Zybar Tahugov. A knockout win against Danny Chavez. And then a submission loss to Charles Jourdain. As far as Julian Erosa, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Submission win against Charles Jourdain. Decision win against Steven Peterson. Decision win against Hakeem Dawodu. Knockout losses to Alex Caceres and Fernando Padilla. Yeah, Padilla. So yeah, I think this is going to be one of the better fights on the card. This is on the prelims, right?
Yeah, I think it is.
Which is crazy because I think this is like one of the better fights on this entire card. But it's because it's a Julian Erosa fight. Weezy, can you name me the last boring Julian Erosa fight?
I don't. I mean, like, I don't remember there ever being one that I can think of.
Even like Dawodu, who's typically in like kind of slower pace, boring. Like that fight was even fun.
Julian Erosa always brings it. I mean, always. And he is a kill or be killed fighter. 12 wins by submission, 11 wins by KO, and 7 losses by KO. Crazy. I mean, Julian's the guy who's going to go in there and he is going to fight your ass, and somebody's going to wind up sleeping. So I can't wait for this one.
Yeah, I mean, that chin is very concerning. I guess, especially against a guy, Ricardo Ramos is obviously a BJJ black belt, but Ramos does have some power. But seven knockout losses is very concerning there. So yeah, this should be a war, Weezy. I mean, every single fight that Julian Erosa is going to be a war. Really looking forward to this one and hearing your thoughts on it.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, Erosa is just the way higher volume guy, and he has no defense, only a 51% distance striking defense. He has absorbed 8 knockdowns in 13 UFC fights, and he's been knocked out 6 times in 7 UFC losses. So, Julian is a guy who's finished 3 of his 6 wins. He throws a ton of volume, 15.34 distance strike attempts per minute, while Ricardo Ramos is just over 10. Erosa's a lot more accurate on the feet, but it's Ramos who's a lot more defensively responsible. And it's Ramos who brings the power, but it's not necessarily like power in his hands. Ramos gets you with the spinning back elbow. It's basically how he gets all his knockdowns and all his knockouts at the UFC level. This guy, he loves that weapon. He spams it. And it's a nice weapon for him because it can help get him into range. You know, he likes to be in range to where he can get his takedowns, and he's getting his takedowns at a 59% clip. That's really impressive. 19 takedowns on 32 attempts, 2.79 per 15 minutes, 0.73 submission attempts per 15 minutes. So Ramos is a guy who is busy with the grappling, but he's not a massive control time grappler. If he gets you down, Brady, he's looking to finish that fight, and he might get reversed as a result. He might give up position as a result. But if he gets back on the feet, he'll just start trying to find a way to land a big shot again and then work his way into the pocket to where he could try to get another body lock takedown. And Julian Erosa, 61% takedown defense. Solid grappling efficiency numbers, I would say. I mean, I'd say he's right about at the bell curve, right at the top of it. Not falling behind, not way above average either. But Ramos has fought the better guys overall. The wins are very similar, but the wins edge to Erosa here. But I like Erosa's volume. I think that he could probably be the minute winner, especially at distance, because he does more. And then I think Ramos is going to have to be the moment winner. I think he's going to win moments with takedowns and submission attempts. I think he's going to win moments by landing the bigger shots on the feet potentially. This is going to be a really fun fight. Where is violence priced on this? That's what I need to know.
Yeah, it screams violence for sure. So the under opened up -115. It got smashed to -155, and that's currently where we're sitting.
Yeah, 6 of 11 Ramos fights under 2.5 rounds, 7 of 13 Erosa fights. So that's a 54% clip over a 24 fight sample size. Definitely guys that finish, but Erosa has had 2 fights finish in the last 2.5 minutes of round 2. So maybe we just kind of wait for that -170, -175 fight doesn't go. I think that that's a pretty good look. Let me just type that into my prop template and see how that looks. Yeah, I think if we could, I think we would wait for the fight doesn't go here, because both of these guys tend to be in wars and somebody could get served late in the 3rd round. But yeah, I'm liking. I like the moment winning of Ramos. I like the minute winning of Erosa, but I think Ramos is just a little bit more dangerous wherever the fight goes. So I'm going to pick him to win.
Yeah, I mean, I worry about the chin, the durability of Rosa. I mean, you don't see guys getting knocked out 7 times or 6 times in the UFC for that matter. I mean, even like Malcolm Gordon only got knocked out like 2 or 3 times. Even like Shannon Ross only been knocked out like twice. I mean, that's 6 times in the UFC getting knocked out is wild to me.
Yeah, and this is a featherweight fight, Brady. And we were talking about it before the show, man. These featherweight fights, one of the things I love betting are featherweight overs. I almost always cash featherweight overs. But I bet featherweight violence this weekend in the Silva Holobaugh fight and in the Bulgarian C-Rod fight, and got blasted in the ass both times. So I'm kind of feeling like, do I want to keep going to the well for unders in featherweight fights? But this one is tempting, man. Both of these guys get finished. In the UFC losses for these two guys, 3 of 4 for Ramos and 6 of 7. So we're talking 9 of 11, Brady. That's just so many. It's so many losses inside the distance. So I definitely think that violence is the way to go here, but we're going to have to pay some juice.
We are. We have to pay some juice for sure. Rosette dog. It could be. I mean, not for me though. I can't play a Rosa, but yeah, a Rosa is a guy that you do want to play as a dog because he always, he fights for you. He's one of those guys that'll fight for your money. He'll fight for your money.
And he pulls off wins that you wouldn't expect him to, and sometimes in ways that you don't expect him to. That Darce choke against Woodson in the 3rd round. So, yeah, man, Erosa at dog odds is never a bad play. It's a good system play, just like Peter said there.
Absolutely. But never bet Erosa as a favorite, ever.
Yep.
Ever. All right, let's keep moving on to the next fight. We have Kurt Holobaugh going against Trey Ogden. We got Holobaugh, 37 years old, 5'11" with a 70-inch reach. Ogden, 34 years old, 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. Ogden, 3 years younger, same height and a 2-inch reach advantage. Kurt Holobaugh is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He came back to the UFC and beat Austin Hubbard, the tough finale there by second round submission. Great win against a tough guy in Austin Hubbard. As far as Trey Ogden, he is 2-2 and won no contest his last 5 fights. He had a decision loss to Jordan Levitt in his debut, a decision win against Daniel Zellhuber, a decision loss to Ignacio Bahamondes, and then a no contest against Nicholas Mota. I can't get Trey Ogden right. I lost money against Jordan Levitt. I thought, hey, this is a great matchup for Trey Ogden. I think he should be able to outstrike Levitt on the feet. No, that didn't happen. So lost a decision there. And then I was very heavy on Daniel Zellhuber, had a big bet on him. And Ogden went out there and outstruck Zellhuber across 3 rounds, so got that wrong. And then I think even against Bahamondes, I had like some Bahamondes props that I got wrong as well. I ended up not betting the Mota fight. But I picked Mota to win, so I would have got that one wrong as well. Ended up being a no contest, but I mean, Ogden was on his way to like 30-27, 30-26ing Nicholas Mota. There was the whole situation with the ref and the sub or whatever, but he was on his way to winning that fight and probably finishing that fight as well. So yeah, Ogden looked really good in his last fight against Nicholas Mota, but he looked terrible against Bahamondes, looked okay against Zellhuber, and looked awful against Jordan Wright. So I just can't seem to figure out Trey Ogden. And then we got Kurt Holobaugh, who's 37 years old at this point. So very interesting fight. I'm not great at picking Trey Ogden fights, Weezy, so help me out. What are you thinking for this one?
Yeah, I'm not great at it either. I picked Zellhuber to shave his ass. I thought Mota was going to disrespect his power and just go after him. But this guy Ogden, he hypnotizes dudes, man. I mean, like, he brings you into his fight, and his fight is a low volume staring match where he outpoints you. And I've said it in the Zellhuber fight. I said this guy's just got to disrespect him and go after him. And what did he do? He sat there and did nothing. And Ignacio beat him, but I mean, I don't think he didn't tee off on him. And then Nick Mota, a guy with a ton of power, got hypnotized and couldn't do shit. And I always say the same thing for all these guys. Trey Ogden's never knocked anybody out in a 23-fight career. Don't play fucking point battle with this guy. Get in the pocket and take his fucking head off, because you're gonna land harder than him. You're gonna land the bigger shots against this guy. But Trey's slick on the ground, and if he can get you down, he's going to hunt for submissions and put you in some bad spots, as we saw in the Mota fight. But he's just not a high volume wrestler. He's not getting takedowns at a high clip. This is a guy who will shoot them, but he's not always going to commit to them. So Holobaugh is the type of fighter, Brady, who I think might be the first guy to actually listen to his coach and just say, just go get this guy. Just go fucking get him, right? He has no power. He's 16% on his takedown attempts against guys like Mota and Bahamondes and Jordan Levitt, who's got 0% takedown defense. So I mean, like, he's not, you really shouldn't have to worry too much if you have decent takedown defense about this guy taking you down. But Holobaugh, unfortunately, has 50% takedown defense, and he's allowed over 38% control time to his opponents. So Ogden absolutely could find ways to win minutes in the grappling exchanges here. But Holobaugh's got a really nice guillotine, and he's a very slick submission grappler, 10-1 to the submission in his career. So if you take Kurt Holobaugh down, you're gonna be put in some bad spots, because this dude's BJJ is very good. This is a very interesting fight. These are two veterans. These guys know who they are. They're finished products at this point. And I think stylistically, Holobaugh is going to try to bring Ogden a war. And I think if he does that, I think he's going to come out on top here. If he tries to get cute and win minutes against this guy and bank rounds, I think he's going to lose this fight. So does Trey hypnotize yet another opponent, Brady? Talk to me.
Do I lose more money on a Trey Ogden fight? We'll see, Weezy. We'll see. So Narashi. I don't think Ogden's been finished. He's been finished 3 times by sub 2 both against Thomas Gifford, both by guillotine in like a minute. Like they happened the same exact way. They were about a year apart, and Thomas Gifford guillotined them, and they also got submitted by Nick Brown back in 2019. So he has been submitted 3 times, which that is a little bit concerning against Holobaugh, who's a legit black belt on the mat.
Yeah, and the fact that he's been subbed by guillotine twice, to the same guy, Kurt Holobaugh is a guy who's got a lot of guillotines on his record. Most recently against Austin Hubbard. So, yeah, this is going to be a fun fight. I don't think my money's going to get anywhere near it, Brady. What is the over here?
The over.
I cashed on an under, I think, or maybe it was a finish only on Holobaugh last time around.
Yeah, we both cashed on that. It was very nice, which is crazy. Like betting a finish only against Austin Hubbard seemed kind of crazy, but because Austin Hubbard's so tough. But yeah, he subbed him.
Yeah.
So the over 2.5 is -160. So it could either look like a terrible bet or like this like a sweat free over because it's a Trey Ogden fight. Like nothing happens ever.
Yeah, I know, man. He's so good at just kind of like doing whatever his opponent is uncomfortable with. He does that and he wins minutes with it. So he's really good at it. I mean, Trey has kind of surpassed my expectations for him coming into the UFC. And that's a guy who lost his debut to Jordan Levitt in a striking match.
Oh,
so
gosh.
It could have been so bad for Trey, but Trey got flat out robbed last time against Nick Moda. That was just disgusting that they couldn't rack that up to referee error and go to the judges' scorecards. That's pathetic. I hope Trey got his win bonus for that fight, because if he didn't, they might have had to like call him and be like, who on the roster would you like to fight next?
Yeah. Dude, this is why I love MMA. Jordan Levitt outstruck Trey Ogden 69-38 at distance. And then Zellhuber got outstruck at distance against Trey Ogden the next fight.
Zellhuber's got an ironclad chin, the way more dangerous striking, and he sat there and did nothing.
Yeah, that was one of those fights where I wanted to smash my TV.
I was not happy about that one because I know you had Ogden against Levitt and you lost your mind during that fight. You were DMing me with dark thoughts and like, you were like, what is this guy doing right now? So yeah, sometimes it's really good to look at how you do on certain fighters, because sometimes you just got to pull back and say, you know what, I'm going to let this one play out, take some notes, and see if I can, get back on a winning streak with this fighter, because sometimes you just got to just walk away, like I had to do from Abdul Razak Al Hassan for a minute, because I was getting every one of his fights wrong. And it's like, okay, just stop betting on him, Weezy. Just stop betting on him. Let the fights play out and try to learn something in the next couple of performances.
Yeah, that's what I did in Ogden's last fight against Moda. But yeah, he looked great against Moda. I think that was probably Ogden's best performance, even though he didn't get a win per se. I mean, he was beating the break. Like the fight wasn't even competitive at all for any point of time in that fight.
It was a great performance by Ogden. It's his best performance so far. So that just means you got to fade him this time.
Yeah, right. All right, Weezy, let's keep moving on this card. We got Fernando Padilla going against Luis Pajuelo. We got Padilla, 27 years old, 6'1" with a 76-inch reach. Pajuelo, he's 29 years old, 5'10" with a 69-inch reach. Padilla, he's 2 years younger with a 3-inch height advantage and a 7-inch reach advantage. We got Padilla, who is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He had his debut against Julian Erosa, won that fight by knockout, and then got Kyle Nelson on his way to a decision. As far as Luis Pajuelo, he had a win against Robbie Ring his last time out by knockout. I think this should be a fun fight. I think, once again, we talked about how the matchmaking on this card's been pretty dang good, and I think this is one where it is. I believe they have this set right now as the main card opener. The feature prelim right now looks to be Ogden and Holobaugh, but the main card opener here, and I think it's a good main card opener. I think this fight's going to be fun.
Yeah, the guy Pajuelo's, he's just going to put on a pace and he's in that pocket and pressure you. And he's got a great chin and he hits really hard. Poor Robbie Ring. He beat the hell out of that dude, man.
Yeah.
And what was that? What did he finish him with? Was it a knee to the body or was it a kick to the body when he was down or something? And Robbie just, I think he got his that got him down. And then when he was down, it was like you remember when Khalil Roundtree stood up and kicked that dude in the ribs on the Ultimate Fighter to get into the house? I mean, I think it was, what was that dude's name? It was, I don't know, but it was vicious. It was absolutely vicious. And that's what that Padilla, or I mean, the Pajuelo finish against Ring reminded me of. And, you know, in Padilla, when people might be on him right now, but he just lost to Kyle Nelson, and Kyle Nelson's a tough fight for anybody in this division. Right now, Kyle's fighting really well. Kyle's putting it all together. Kyle looks like a cagey veteran in there that knows how to fight to his opponent's weaknesses, and he took advantage of a younger, a little bit less experienced, but he's also the taller guy. He's going to have a 7-inch reach advantage here. He's got 11 more fights and twice as much time in the cage. He's got 2 more fights at the UFC level, and this is a guy who's 8-0 to the submission and 5-0 to the knockout. Neither one of these guys has ever been finished. And this is a gigantic step up in competition for Luis Pajuelo. And I can't wait for this fight because I think both of these guys absolutely deserve to be here. They're both really fun to watch. They're both in really fun fights all the time. Pajuelo, his fight before Dana White's Contender Series was just a war, a pace war where he just beat 7 shades of shit out of this dude and finished him late. So this is going to be a really fun one as well. But I'm, right now, from what I've seen from both of these guys, I'm going to lean Padilla because I know that he's more dangerous on the ground. He's 8-0 to the sub, while Pajuelo is 0-0 to the sub. And we know that Pajuelo is going to need kind of like get in that pocket and box. But in order to do that, Brady, he's going to have to close 7 inches of reach disadvantage that he's up against here. So I'm going to lean with Padilla here, the younger guy, the taller guy, the more experienced guy who's fought the better brand of competition and the better submission grappler.
Yeah, I was leaning that way as well, but this kind of concerns me. Like, that's a terrible Tapology picture, in my opinion. I don't know what you think of it, but just weird face going on there.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he smelled something bad. Maybe somebody farted. Like. Yeah, dude. But that's a cool shirt, dude. That's cool Mick and Rock there, and they're one of the best combos ever in movie boxing for sure.
It's a great shirt. Just a weird facial. You don't see facial expressions like that these days.
No, you don't. But this is a Peruvian warrior versus a Mexican warrior. Dude, this is going to be an all-out brawl, and I'm here for it, man. I can't wait for this one.
Yeah, I was interested to see where they put violence because both these guys are very violent offensively. The only problem is 6 losses combined. I believe all 6 by decision. So neither guy has been finished. Both guys are very durable. So that kind of scares me off. But yeah, they set the over-under at 1.5, and the over 1.5 is minus 190. The under 1.5 is plus 160. Kind of a weird total because, like I said, both these guys have showed that durability.
Yeah, I mean, man, minus 190 for over. My God, that's really tempting. Really tempting with these guys being as durable as they are. So yeah. I'm going to take a look at that.
Yep, they're both very durable. And when I do like attacking violence, I like attacking non-durable fighters like a Matt Schnell.
There you go.
Yeah.
Or a Julian Erosa.
Yes, exactly. And both these guys have shown no durability issues. Let's see where the line is at on these guys. Padilla's minus 185, and Pajuelo is plus 160. So Padilla, although only minus 185, is like one of the biggest favorites on this card.
Yeah, that's it's great matchmaking. Yeah, I think Pajuelo, it's a big step up. It's a debut. big step up in competition. I mean, and yeah, a lot of things on paper that he's at a deficit in. So I think Padilla is the rightful favorite.
Yeah. Dixon has insider info. Dixon, which one of these guys has an OnlyFans? I'm pretty sure it's not Padilla with the face he was making.
Yeah, but he said Padilla was consummated that day. He got insider info, so maybe that's what it was. Yeah, yeah.
That could be it. That could be it. All right. So yeah, fun fight there to open up the main card. Let's keep moving on. We have Billy Quarantillo going against Youssef Zalal, and I'm very upset because it was supposed to be Billy Quarantillo versus Gabriel Miranda. Like, how fun was that fight going to be? I was really looking forward to that fight. I'm still looking forward to this fight, don't get me wrong, but I really wanted to see Miranda versus Billy Quarantillo. That fight was incredible matchmaking. But yes, Zalal is stepping in on short notice. We got Zalal, he's 27 years old, 5'10" with a 72-inch reach. Billy Q, he's 35 years old, 5'10" with a 70-inch reach. Zalal is 8 years younger, same height, and Zalal with a 2-inch reach advantage. Billy Q is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Knockout win against Gabriel Benitez. Decision loss against Shane Burgos. Knockout win against Alexander Hernandez. Knockout loss to Edson Barbosa. And then a decision win against Damon Jackson. As far as Zalal, he is 3-1 and 1 draw in his last 5 fights. Had a little bit of a skid in the UFC. Lost to Sean Woodson by decision. Had the draw against him on Blackshear. Got cut. And then he has 3 back-to-back wins outside the UFC, all inside the distance, and I believe all inside like a round. So yeah, Zalal's went out there and made the most of it. Got 3 really good finish wins, and now they're bringing him back on short notice against Billy Q. But yeah, I mean, taking a short notice fight against Billy Q is not the smartest thing in the world, but I think Zalal's solid. You know, this is a guy that I think is so good. And he's actually a guy with a 100% finish rate outside of the UFC. He's finished every single fight outside the UFC, but inside the UFC, more of like a decision guy. I don't know what it is. He's like a little bit lower volume inside the UFC, but like outside the UFC, this guy looks like a killer. Like he's pressuring, he's landing a ton of volume. He's dangerous wherever the fight goes, but inside the UFC, just looks kind of off. So yep, Zalal is getting another opportunity here in the UFC, and it's a tough matchup. It's a tough matchup, especially to take on short notice. But I'm looking forward to this fight, as I always am with a Billy Quarantillo fight. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this one, Weezy.
Yeah, it's a fascinating stylistic matchup because I would say if this fight took place on the feet for 75% of the fight, it would just be a matter of time before Quarantillo hurt him and swarmed on him. But the troubling thing is these two numbers right here. Billy Quarantillo in 104 minutes of UFC cage time only spends 42% of his time at distance striking range. Youssef Zalal only spends 41% of his time at distance striking range. And Zalal attempts 6.86 takedowns per 15 minutes. Billy attempts almost 6. But Billy's a little bit less accurate on the takedowns. Billy wins about 51% of the control time positions. Zalal wins about 59% of control time positions. I guess the question is how long can Youssef Zalal hold Billy Quarantillo's back up against the cage? You know?
Yeah.
Because he's going to have to do it for a while because Billy's pace is ridiculous. 23.11 distance strike attempts per minute? You fucking kidding me? Dude, this guy lands more distance strikes per minute, Brady, than Trey Ogden attempts per minute. He lands 10.72 and he absorbs 10. I mean, this guy wants to drag you into a war. And Youssef Zalal wants to do the absolute opposite. He wants to hold on to you for dear life and not let you land strikes on him. You know, look at Zalal. You're talking about a clash in styles here. Billy Quarantillo lands 7.25 significant strikes per minute. Youssef Zalal absorbs only 1.75. I think he can hold Billy. I think he can kind of just like wear on him and hold on to him and make this a very close fight because Billy's going to want to fight and Youssef's going to want to prevent him from fighting. And Youssef's very good at preventing people from fighting. Look, Youssef has a 100% finish rate in his wins outside the UFC. Inside the UFC, he hasn't finished anybody. And I mean, like the guys that he's beaten, 3 wins and 9 losses combined. So it's not like he's beating great competition outside of the very slippery Pete Barrett. That's a tough win for anybody. That guy is more greased up than C-Rod was in the Bulgarian fight. So, boy, I mean, what do you think here, Brady? I mean, like, are you agreeing with me that if it's on the feet, you'd favor Billy, but maybe you think that Zalal is going to really try to slow Billy down in those distance striking exchanges so that he can't attempt 23.11 distance strikes per minute and just put that volume on Youssef?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think like Youssef's a very, very good striker. I think he's probably the better striker here, much more defensively sound. Like, look at that defensive striking distance comparison. It's allowed 67%, Billy 47%. That has to be like one of the worst distance striking defenses you'll see. But it's just, it doesn't matter. Like, Billy's going to just drown you with volume. It doesn't matter if you hit him in the face, he really doesn't care. So, yeah, on the feet, it's got to be Billy just because he's going to be more active. But yeah, I feel like this fight could potentially be close. Dixon brought it up. So Billy Quarantillo does have an OnlyFans, which I'm not sure if the fade applies. Dixon, I'm not sure. You can let me know, but he does. He actually does. So, yeah, it could be I think it could be like a split decision. One thing I find interesting is Zalal is just very durable. You know, typically Billy's a guy that's going to kind of break you, get you out of there, but Zalal's a guy. I believe Zalal trains in Colorado, right?
Oh, yeah. He's a Factory
Yeah.
X guy, and he's always had phenomenal conditioning.
Yeah, like that Black Shear fight showed really good cardio. So yeah, Zalal has great cardio. Not only that, but he's also very durable. So I think this could go the distance, could maybe be close. So yeah, I'm curious to see where they have the over. Holy crap. The over 2.5 is minus 260.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's a Zalal fight. Every single one of his UFC fights has went to decision, all 7 of them.
Gosh, yeah. I can tell you right now, if it was Billy Q versus Gabriel Miranda, that'd be like minus 260 to the under. But
Yeah.
yeah, just
It's
crazy.
crazy how one fighter, you know,
Yeah.
you take one fighter out, you replace him with a different fighter. It just goes to show you that styles always make fights, and whichever guy has their way in terms of dictating the style is such a great indication for in a striker versus grappler matchup, for instance, whether it's going to go over or under.
Yeah, that's crazy. Minus 260. Imagine laying minus 260 on an over in a Billy Q fight. I mean, it probably hits, but the sweat you're going to have for those first 12 and a half minutes with Billy just going completely wild the entire time. But yeah, I think it goes over. I think it goes to decision. Billy Q opened up minus 300. Wow. And he's currently minus 160. Eustace Zalal opened up plus 250. He's currently plus 140. So yeah, this is probably one I'm just gonna sit back and watch, Weezy. Don't really like anything other than from like a fan perspective. I'm looking forward to it, but in terms of betting it, no thank you.
Maybe, I mean, can we get cheeky, Brady, and play that under? It's a Billy Q fight.
I wish.
I mean, this isn't slippery Pete Barrett, you know, who just got grease dripping off of him. I mean, you're not gonna. I mean, every punch that you throw just slips off of him. You know, you try to lock in a submission, forget about it. This is, you know, this is Youssef Zalal. You know, he's a human being, but I mean, like Tapuria couldn't even finish this guy.
I know, like
So, I mean,
if Zalal has shown like any type of sense of urgency inside the UFC, I would be betting it, or any sense of like he just looks so durable. Like even Taporia was beating the brakes off of him for the majority of the fight, and he was able to survive all the submission attempts, everything. So I don't know.
yeah, man, this might just, you know, it's a damn good thing that it's going to be a fun fight, because it might be easier to just say, you know what, I'm passing on the gambling angles here.
Can never bet Billy Q's IQ. He can chin himself. What? I like Billy's style. I love Billy's style. It's so fun to watch.
It is, and I mean, when you trust your durability and you've got that kind of cardio and output, you can fight that fan friendly style, and it can, you know, not only are you entertaining the fans, but it's going to work for you too. You're going to win fights with it.
Yeah, 100%. Let's see. He chinned himself with Barbosa. Yeah, that was a nasty knee.
Yeah,
Um,
that was not good for him.
yeah, I'm sure Billy's not posting his dong on OnlyFans. I'm sure that's not what's going on. Silent Rob, come on. All right, so yeah, let's move on to the people's main event. We got Payton Talbott going against Cameron Saaiman. We got Payton Talbott, who is 25 years old, 5'10" with a 70-inch reach. Cameron Saaiman, he's 22 years old, 5'8" with a 67-inch reach. We get Saaiman 3 years younger. It's going to be Talbott with a 2-inch height advantage and a 3-inch reach advantage. Payton Talbott, he's 5-0 in his last 5 fights. He had a decision win against Reyes Cortez Jr. on the Contender Series, then beat Nick Aguirre by third-round submission. And then as far as Cameron Saaiman, he's 4-1 in his last 5 fights, made his debut against Steven Kozlow, won that fight by third-round knockout, beat Josh Wong Kim by third-round knockout on the Contender Series, beat Mano Martinez by decision, Terrence Mitchell by first-round knockout, and then lost the decision to Christian Rodriguez. So, yeah, this is a fight. Kind of reminds me a lot of like Dalgarian Rodriguez last fight in terms of we have 2 very good prospects that everybody's excited about. Like, how can you not be excited about both these guys? They're going against each other here. So, in a way, it's like I kind of hate it because I want both these guys to succeed and, shoot up and the rankings eventually and keep winning. But, one of these guys is going to have to lose, which kind of sucks. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of Payton Talbott, especially. That Nick Aguirre win was awesome because I had Talbott in the third round at like plus 800, something like that. And I remember at the beginning of the third round, he looks over at Aguirre and says, like, I'm going to break you. And break him, he did. It was incredible. And yeah, this guy's very fun. But yes, Simon's pretty good himself. He's only 22 years old. This is such a fun fight, Weezy. I feel like this is going to be the fight that divides everybody this week. I feel like there's going to be strong takes on either side, such as the Dalgarian Rodriguez fight. For me, I don't know. I feel like I might sit back and watch this one. I think I actually lean Talbot, but I also don't want to completely rule out Saaiman as well. Like both these guys are going to be making significant improvements. So, Weezy, I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of both of these guys, and they fit that mold of what I like in a fighter, which is durability, um, great conditioning, a ton of pace, and a lot of output. They both do that. You look at a bunch of green in this area right here, and these are the offensive distance striking statistics right in there. You just see all green, over 15 distance strike attempts per minute from both of these guys, above average accuracy from both of these guys. Both of these guys land damn near 7 distance strikes per minute, which is about 2 more than the divisional average. They both land a lot more at distance than their opponents do. 3.93 per minute at Talbot, 1.78 per minute for Saaiman. Simon's flashed a little bit of power, landing a knockdown in 4 UFC fights. He's got 2 wins by knockout in the UFC. And, both of these guys are very durable, and they both got phenomenal conditioning and output. Cameron has won some minutes on the ground, though, and that's could be a way for him to slow down Payton's output. And I think that's something that you really have to do, because 15 minutes at distance striking range with a guy like Payton Talbot, who's just going to just unload volume on you, is not a good place to be. You have to be very sharp, and you have to try to get his respect. But the problem with that is that Payton has demonstrated that he's got a phenomenal chin, a really good chin. And Cameron Saaiman has shown the exact same thing. So in this one, you've got 2 phenomenally durable guys, 2 well-conditioned athletes that can push a pace for the full 15 minutes. But right now, I've seen Cameron be able to show a little bit of minute winning in the grappling areas, and I think that that's going to be a little bit important. Cameron's also been fighting the better level of competition, although, in my opinion, Payton Talbot's regional scene competition is very, very good. Prior to getting to the UFC, this guy fought some legit guys on the regional scene. He didn't take easy fights to get here. So, boy, I mean, I really think that both these guys are going to be special, but I'm just leaning a little bit more to that Talbott side. I think he's got that it factor. I think if this is close, the judges probably give it to him because I think he's the more marketable guy right now. This, the promotion admittedly needs more big name American fighters, plain and simple, right? 2/3 of the events for the UFC, maybe 75% take place right here in this country, so they do travel sometimes, but a guy like Talbot, who's from Nevada, fighting in Las Vegas, I think it's a good spot for him here, and I'm going to pick him to win. I think he knows people are going to be grappling him. I know that he came in to fight, ready to fight, to train over there for a little bit, but I think he still spends all of his time, almost all of his time, at the Reno Academy of Combat. But and Hammer and Saaiman had a great team that's got a champion on it in Drickus, Team CIT in South Africa, a very good team, up and coming team as well. So this is a great fight. It is the people's main event. I'm leaning Talbot by decision, but Payton Talbot round 3 is an auto bet. It should be an auto bet every damn time the way that this guy fights. That's his style. That's how he's going to be finishing fights at this level. 3rd round knockout.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder what Simon's game plan is going to be. Like, it couldn't possibly be just striking with Talbot for 15 minutes. I think he should grapple. Do you think he's going to try to? I think he should.
I think he should. I absolutely think he should, because that's how you slow the dude down. You want to put him on his back for 5 or 6 out of the 15 minutes because, Cameron's durable, so he'll be able to stand and trade with this dude, but Payton can break you if you play his game. And I think that if you want to play that, who can take the harder punch and who can press harder over 15 minutes, I think that's going to be Talbot, even though Saaiman might be the guy that is able to excel at that as well. They're both very good there.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, Talbot opened up as a -110. So I'm gonna pick a -110. It's currently Talbot -135. Cameron Saaiman opened up -110. He's currently +115, and the over is juiced as expected. It's -210 to the over. Under is +170. I'm probably just gonna sit back and watch this one. We'll see what the Talbot 3rd round prop is. I'm assuming they're going to be all over it because you're right. That's literally how he wins fights all the time. Talbot has 0 first-round knockouts. Never happened in the first round. It's always round 2 or round 3 for Talbot. But I kind of more so actually lean decision here, one way or another. And I think it could even be close. So, yeah, I'm picking Talbot, though. Talbot by decision. Any thoughts on maybe a money line? It has been kind of hit over the last 24 hours or so, though.
Yeah, I asked you about it when I was in Florida. I was like, what do you think about Talbot at a pick'em? I mean, he seems to have that trajectory, that staying power, that it factor in terms of being, not only having a fun style to fight with, but also one that will be fan friendly and that the fans will gravitate towards. He's got an interesting personality. He's a good looking kid, and his fight style is absolutely phenomenal to watch. My favorite thing, Brady, is to watch somebody break another professional fighter. When you see dudes break in the 3rd round under the pressure of somebody, it's so much fun to watch, because you're not the one being broken.
Yeah, I love watching it as well. Let's see here. And Wayne has a really good question, Weezy. Why is Pete so slippery?
He's slippery Pete Barrett, I mean, and if you watch his fights, like, remember Chase Hooper submitted him in the 3rd round? That was the 37th leg lock that then Pete finally was just like, all right, I quit now. He's just an extremely slippery guy. He got that nickname for a reason, and it's because in his regional scene footage, you see this guy get put in bad spots over and over and over and over again. And he's the kind of guy who Homer Simpsons you by making you gas out trying to finish him, and then he gets a 3rd round finish. So slippery Pete Barrett, absolute legend. We're going to see him back soon. We have to. The UFC needs slippery Pete Barrett right now. Who do we got to call to make that happen?
I mean, isn't he Isn't he cut or no? Or
Well,
should
yeah,
we
but
bring
that's
him
a
back?
huge mistake, is my point. How do you cut Slippery Pete Barrett? Anybody
You
could
don't.
lose to Chase Hooper by leg lock. You know, anybody could get their ass shaved on the Contender Series by I forget. Either way, man, you got to bring back Slippery Pete. You know, it's just you should actually have him as the main event, because the canvas is just going to be all greased up after his fights. It won't be
Exactly.
operational anymore.
Yeah, you can't have him on the undercard because he's gonna f everything up, right? It's gotta be the last fight.
Yeah, you're gonna have to bring in a completely new cage.
Yeah, you're just so slippery, just sliding
Totally
his way.
slippery.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, people's main event there. We'll move on now to the next fight. We have Edmen Shahbazyan going against AJ Dobson. We got Shahbazyan, 26 years old, 6'2" with a 74-inch reach. Dobson, 32 years old, 6'1" with a 76-inch reach. Shahbazyan is 6 years younger, 1-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach disadvantage. Shahbazyan is 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Knockout loss to Derek Brunson, decision loss against Jack Hermanson, knockout loss against Imavov, knockout win against Dalcio Longambola, then a knockout loss to Anthony Hernandez. Just a very tough level of competition the last several fights for Shahbazyan. As far as Dobson, he's 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He got a decision loss to Jacob Malkoun, decision loss to Armin Petrosian, and then a decision win against Tafan Nchukwu. So I thought it was kind of interesting seeing Edmen Shahbazyan as a -185 favorite, which would be like the 3rd or 4th biggest favorite on the card, especially with kind of like the run he's been on. But like I said, look at who he's losing against. He's losing to very, very high level fighters like Anthony Hernandez. There's no shame in that. Nazarene Imavov, there's no shame in that. Jack Hermanson, there's no shame in that. Derek Brunson wasn't the best look, but he kind of got broken in that fight. So yeah, should be probably one of Shahbazyan's easier fights in a long time. Not saying AJ Dobson's some pushover, but it's one of his easier fights in a pretty long time here. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, and to be frank, this is one of AJ Dobson's easier fights, because the guys that he's lost to are just nightmare
It's true.
matchups. You
Yep.
know, Jacob Malkoun is a nightmare matchup for anybody.
Besides
Armin
the Brundage,
Petrosyan. Yeah, well, I mean, Brundage knocked him out in the
knocked him
first.
out.
You know, I
Totally
mean, that
knocked
was clean. But Armin Petrosyan is a really tough matchup. I mean, he's a tough guy to take down and hold down, and his striking is phenomenal. And then he bounced back against Nchukwu and got a good win there by decision. AJ Dobson, gonna be interesting, you know, because AJ is a guy who trains with Mark Coleman, and we all know what Mark Coleman just went through. Just saved his parents' lives in a house fire after his Rottweiler Hammer woke him up to let him know that the house was on fire. So we saw Mark struggling, clinging to life there for a little bit, but now it looks like he's making a recovery. Rest in peace to the Rottweiler Hammer, who was a hero saving all 3 of them, but he was unfortunately lost in the fire. So Dobson, you know, he's going to be fighting for Mark Coleman here, and Mark Coleman's been a guy that's been in his corner a couple of times before. And Dobson's got power, and Shahbazyan's got power. Both of these guys have got heavy hands. I'm kind of leaning towards violence here, even though all of Dobson's fights have went to decision thus far in the UFC. Shahbazyan's finishing fights, and Shahbazyan's getting finished. And I think that Dobson is a guy who has a lot of power, just like Shahbazyan. So I think while this fight's on the feet, I think both guys are going to be very dangerous. Dobson might wrestle, though, and if he does that and he kind of tries to make this a grindy type affair, then I could definitely see it going over. It just depends on what the game plan of these 2 guys is. But Dobson is a guy who will try to wrestle, and we've seen Shahbazyan be susceptible to that in the past. So I think we might see Dobson mix that in. And Shahbazyan, I don't think he's going to try to wrestle here. I think he's going to want to show off those hands. It's always been the best part of his game. And Shahbazyan is not Jacob Malkoun. He's not going to be taking down Dobson and wrist riding him and winning a ton of minutes. That's not his game. You know, he's going to have to do this by being the better boxer, and he is that. But Dobson's a guy who brings a ton of power and is very dangerous in his own right. So I think that this is a really fun fight. And I think stylistically, I do like the under here at plus money for the under 2.5. If Dobson wants to stand on the napkin and see who is the better striker here with Shahbazyan. If that happens, if we see this fight take place at distance striking range, I think we're going to see someone get knocked out here.
Yeah, I think it'd be really smart for Dobson to wrestle, though. Like, you take a look at Shahbazyan, he really struggles with guys taking him down. Derek Brunson took him down 4 times, pounded him out. Jack Hermanson took him down 3 times, dominated him on the mat. We even saw Anthony Hernandez take him down and dominate him. Even Nasruddin Imavov got him down a couple times and dominated him and finished him via TKO. So whenever Shahbazyan's losing, it's always, due to that ground game. So, yeah, the under's interesting, right? Like an under in a Shahbazyan fight at plus money, like you can definitely talk me into that. But Shahbazyan minus 185, it just kind of surprised me. It's because like this guy has just been on such a skid lately, 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Seeing him at minus 185, I thought was very interesting there. And then Dobson's currently plus 160. The under plus 108, best price I see. And the over like minus 135. So I don't hate the under. I don't think it's a terrible look. But if Dobson does wrestle, I guess it could, he could burn some minutes on top potentially. I don't know.
Yeah, dude, that'll be one where if you bet that under and then Dobson shoots a takedown 10 seconds in, you might be like, oh, this might not work out, But I do think that these guys are going to stand and bang. I think both of these guys, Brady, they need an emphatic win. They really do. And if Dobson goes out there trying to wrestle, I think it might be bad for both of them, honestly, because Shahbazyan's kind of clinging on to his job here, having lost 4 out of the last 5. He's still only 26. I mean, that's crazy. He's 6 years younger than this guy, Dobson, and he's the more experienced fighter, and he's fought the much better brand of competition. So, yeah, man, this is a very interesting fight. I think I'm leaning Shahbazyan here. But I'm hoping that Dobson can, bring some positive vibes to the Mark Coleman and his family, getting a win here after what they've been through. But I'm really looking forward to this fight, Brady. This is really good matchmaking. It's going to be a really fun fight.
Yeah. Dobson live bet could be something like Edmen does gas out in every single fight. So laying minus 185 on somebody with a terrible gas tank is always a little bit concerning for sure.
You know what I think the play might be here, Brady?
What's that?
The under 1.5 instead of the under 2.5. Because Shahbazyan has been, you know what? No, actually, that's not right. Because the under 2.5, Shahbazyan 7 of 9 times, but for the under 1.5, only 3 of 9.
3 of 9.
So actually, most of the finishes come between 1.5 and 2.5 for Shahbazyan. So yeah, under 2.5 at plus 105. It's a trifecta bet on the prop template. Probably something I'm going to be touching up for 1 unit.
I still have PTSD of the Brunson fight. Yeah,
Brunson was getting shaved in the first.
I know.
Remember?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I definitely had Shahbazyan in that fight. I was not expecting Brunson to do that. That was a beatdown. But yeah, he was. Edmen Shahbazyan was looking really good early.
Yeah. Yeah, great fight. Not for Absolutely. Richard, unfortunately, but yeah, I don't think I was on Brunson that fight either. I don't think that one went well for me.
And it's a good point from Wayne. Like, does Edmen not have good taking defense, or has he fought good people? I think he's fought very good grapplers. Anthony Hernandez. I mean, come on. Jack Hermanson, Derek Brunson. So yeah, you're right, Wayne. Like, he's fighting very good grapplers. Even Nasruddin Imavov's not bad on the mat himself. So that's a really good point. I think all those guys are better on the ground than Dobson for sure.
Yeah. And don't forget, he's still only 26 and it's getting better. He's been working on that for the last 5 years. So he's a work in progress still. Edmen's still very young, but Dobson is 32 years old. So we know what to expect from AJ at this point.
Absolutely. All right. Let's move on to, by the way, I had a weird dream last night, Weezy, that OSP outstruck Kennedy by like 70, 80 significant strikes and beat him by decision.
Dude, that would never happen. No, that dreaming is crazy. Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, that happens to me sometimes when I take acid and then I lose a day or two, and then it's like a couple days later, you're like, wait, I have some weird memories from those days, you know? And then somebody tells you, no, you did that, dude. Sometimes life is funny.
That's the truth. That's the truth. But move on to the, do they really have this as the co-main event right now?
Yes, sir. That's what it's listed as on UFC stats.
Okay. We got Karl Williams going against Justin Tafa in the co-main event. We got Karl Williams, 34 years old, 6'3" with a 79-inch reach. Justin Tafa, 30 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach. Tafa, 4 years younger. Karl Williams with a 3-inch height advantage and a 5-inch reach advantage. We got Karl Williams 5-0 in his last 5 fights. He had a decision win against Lucas Bresky and a decision win against Chase Sherman. As far as Justin Tafa, he is 3-1 and 1 no contest his last 5 fights. Decision loss to Jared Van. Weezy, am I reading that correct? Did he lost to Jared Vandera by decision?
Yeah, dude. You don't know how many times I've double checked that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, because I see it on the screen and I'm like, wait, no, that can't be right. It happened. He lost by decision to Jared Vandera.
And I'm also just looking. He didn't lose to Yorgan De Castro by first round. That's a typo, right? Yorgan De Castro did not knock him out, or
I thought that was an error too. Slept violently by Yorgan De Castro rushing in.
Okay,
he got caught. Yeah, it happened.
And then just last one, just to clarify, he did lose to Carlos Felipe, right? Or is that
no? But I checked that too. I mean, there's never been a fighter where I've doubted my data entry more than Justin Tafa. And yes, that's all true. He lost all those fights.
Okay, just wanted to confirm. It just looks weird. It looks weird having lost to Jared Vandera. But then he bounces back against Harry Hunsucker. Was that the fight he missed weight against Hunsucker?
I think so. Yeah, I think that was the one, man.
So he missed weight against Hunsucker, then knocked him out in the first round, knocked out Parker Porter, no contest against Lane, and then knocks out Austin Lane in the first round. I mean, it doesn't get any more striker versus grappler than this here. Karl Williams wants nothing to do with the striking and really a lot of his fights, but this one especially, he's going to want nothing to do with the striking with Justin Tafa. And Justin Tafa is going to want to keep this on the feet. So interesting matchup here. I mean, this is definitely a step up for Karl Williams going from Chase Sherman, who has 50 UFC losses, and Lucas Bresky, who I don't think is great either, to Justin Tafa, who's a pretty hard-hitting heavyweight. This was supposed to be Junior Tafa. There was that whole weird situation where Justin Tafa was supposed to fight De Lima. Justin pulled out on fight day. Junior Tafa unfortunately stepped in on like a less than 24 hours short notice and got finished by De Lima in the second round. And then now Justin Tafa stepping in for Junior Tafa, this time around against Karl Williams. We currently have Karl Williams Weezy as the biggest favorite on the entire card. What could go wrong? But no, I do lean Karl Williams here. I think he probably gets takedowns, but this is sketchy, dude. Like I'm kind of sketched out. Like, because on the feet, Justin Tafa is live to knock out a lot of guys. And I really liked what I've seen on the feet with Karl Williams. Like, he had some really sketchy moments against both Bresky and Sherman when the fight was standing, but Karl Williams is a very good wrestler, and he probably does get takedowns here. Kind of a weird fight to break down. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so I mean, you know that I cashed a max bet on Karl Williams against Lucas Bresky at -200, and
Nice.
it was the Jimmy Lawson fight before that where I was like, wow, you know, I mean, this guy's out wrestling a Penn State wrestler. You know, that's a you know, obviously, you know, Brady, you went there. It's easily one of the top 5 programs in the entire country, year after year after year after year. So Karl Williams out wrestling a guy from that university and doing it in the manner with which he did it was very impressive. So when I went back and I watched the tape on Karl, you know, I'm like, wow, this guy's really good, man. I mean, the conditioning is excellent. The wrestling is excellent, and he can push that pace. So 42% control time only 2% control time allowed. He's winning 95% of the control time positions in his fights, and he's only spending 55% of his time at distance striking range. And what was funny was he was getting his takedown stuffed in the second half of the fight by Chase Sherman. Then he outboxed Chase Sherman. he was out there landing that jab on Chase. And you look at the distance striking numbers for Karl Williams, they're pretty good. He's got knockdown in only 2 UFC fights. He's got a positive 1.15 distance striking differential, 45% accurate, above average, 64% distance striking average, way above average. And he throws a decent amount of volume for the division. But he's facing Justin Tafa, who's built like a bowling ball, who's never been taken down in the UFC, and he hits so hard, dude. You don't want to be hit by Justin Tafa. This guy's got bricks for hands, a big, strong Samoan dude. I mean, you just don't want to mess with this guy. He is a bad man. That's his nickname, and he's got bad hands. So Karl's going to be walking a tightrope here, man, because if he doesn't get takedowns, he's not going to just be able to sit there and jab up Justin Tafa, because he's going to get countered at some point and he's going to get hit really hard. And, you know, after last night, are you laying minus 200 on a wrestler? A wrestler that lands 1.56 strikes per minute in control time positions? That's not a lot, dude. That's actually below average for the division. So he's kind of low volume. He could win minutes, but you know, he might have 4 minutes and 30 seconds of control time. Tafa lands one good left hook and he loses the round. So I mean, I've won money on Karl the last 2 fights, and I'm very impressed by his skill set. But this is a weird matchup for him. I don't like this stylistic matchup for him. I think the Justin Tafa round 1 KO at something maybe plus 400, plus 500, plus 600 even. I'm going to be trying to take a look at that.
I'm sorry. I was looking up Justin Tafa's Instagram, and I came across a Reddit post. In the post reads, "Y'all think Justin Tafa's tattoos go down his ass cheeks?" Like, what?
Probably do. I mean,
that's an actual thread. Somebody said, I was wondering the same thing. Like, why were you wondering that? Why were you thinking that? I bet his junk's tattooed. Holy crap!
Why?
What's wrong with people?
Why would you bet that? Why would you bet that that the junk is tattooed?
Oh my gosh! So I'm gonna exit out of that. Gosh. Anyway, yeah. So
and then there's the knee injury too. We got to talk about the knee injury.
Yeah, we were actually talking about this, Weezy. Justin Tafa's get-up game. We are talking about it before the show. I don't know. We haven't seen it. We literally haven't seen him taken down, but I have a feeling his get-up game's probably not the best.
I don't think. I think that guy might take 10 minutes to get out of bed in the morning. You know, so I mean, if he's got Karl Williams on top of him, Brady, I don't think he's getting back up. You know, we always said, right? We talked about in the Pogues fight against Thomas Peterson, right? That ass. It's a counterbalance. You know, I mean, you try to take somebody down with a gigantic ass, Brady, that ass works like a counterbalance. It's simple physics, okay? So that can help you stay up. But once you got a fat ass and that ass is on the ground, Brady, getting back up is so much more challenging for a fat ass than it is for a neuro ass. So Justin Tafa fits into the fat ass category. And if Karl gets him down, I don't think he's getting back up. Now, I think he can just ride out the round, hold on to Karl, try to land a big left hook or right hook in the next, or a big left hook in the next round. But yeah, I think if Karl gets him down, he's keeping him down.
Yeah, I would lean the same thing as well. I hope not. I can't afford a virus on this computer. Like, this computer's on its last legs, so I can't afford one of those. But hopefully, Justin Tafa's ass does not give me a virus. That'd be terrible.
That's a virus that you would need a new computer from.
Absolutely. So yeah, we got big ass fade. But yeah, potentially this fight could be like one big ass fade. I kind of tend to agree. But yeah, Karl Williams, he opened up as a minus 250 favorite. He's currently minus 214. Justin Tafa opened up plus 210, currently plus 184. The over-under is weird. It's like, if this is going over, it's like probably Karl Williams winning a decision. And if it's going under, it's probably means that Justin Tafa caught him early is kind of how I'm seeing it. So don't love the total. Don't love the money line. Don't really love betting on this fight. Any thoughts on that total, Weezy? I think it's kind of correlated to the fighter.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, why play the total? If you want to play that under, play Tafa by KO in round 1. If you want to play the over, play Williams by decision or Williams round 3 decision.
All right. I still can't believe that Reddit thread. Like, who was just up at night thinking, man, I wonder if Justin Tafa's tats go down to his ass cheeks. Who the heck is just, what sick person's just thinking that? Like, out of anything you can think, you think that.
And then to the next point, Brady, that you have that thought that you have to share it with Reddit now because you really want to know what other people think to see if you're on the right path. Like, you might be thinking, yeah, I'll bet you that those tattoos cover his ass cheeks. I'm getting on Reddit, because I know they agree with me out there. This is going to be like this post is going to get so many likes.
Yeah, the sad thing was, like, people were agreeing. People were like, man, I was thinking the same exact thing. Like, were you actually? What, you were thinking the same exact thing? Like, I don't know. Some people are just weird, and that was one of the weirder things I've seen on Reddit. And there's a lot of the weird things on Reddit, but I think that might top it. UFC related, at least.
You gotta love it. We cover all the angles here on Stat Diggers. You gotta tune into this show. You gotta subscribe to Pub Sports Radio. You gotta hit that like button. You're not gonna get analysis like this anywhere.
I think we'll be the only show, just a hot take, I think we'll be the only show this week talking about Justin Tafa's ass. I'd be shocked if we weren't.
Yeah, and the ass as a counterbalance is a point that people will remember going forward. Big ass, hard to take down, easy to keep down. Remember that. Crocheted on a pillow for all I care. But you remember those words from your Uncle Weezy, and they are going to lead you to the land of profit. Mark my words.
Absolutely. And speaking of ass, we have this main event. We got Rose Namajunas going against Amanda Ribas. We got Amanda Ribas. She's 30 years old, 5'3" with a 66-inch reach. Rose Namajunas, 31 years old, 5'5" with a 65-inch reach. Ribas, 1 year younger. It's going to be Rose with a 2-inch reach advantage and a 1-inch reach disadvantage. Ribas is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. A decision win against Fernando Jandaroba. Decision loss to Caitlin Chukagian. Decision win against Viviane Araújo. Knockout loss against Macy Barber. Then a knockout win against Luana Pinheiro. As far as Rose Namajunas, she is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Decision win against Jessica Andrade. Knockout win against Zhang Wei Li. Decision win against Zhang Wei Li. A decision loss to Carla Esparza. And then a decision loss to Manon Fiorot. So 25 minutes. Rose Namajunas, Amanda Ribas. Weezy, what do you got here?
I like Rose here. I thought she put on a really good performance against Manon Fiorot. That was a close fight, and if you can strike with Manon at distance and not get completely washed, you're a damn good striker, and we already knew that about Rose. She's fighting another fellow strawweight here up at flyweight, which is it's good for both of them because they don't have to cut as much weight, and they get to perform at a higher level because they're not draining themselves trying to make weight here. So, but I think that Rose is going to be the better striker here. She, the numbers don't necessarily parse that out because Amanda throws so much more volume, but it's Rose who's precise and who can drop you, who can knock you out, who can land that one shot that wins the round. So and Rose on the ground is very good as well. But Ribas can win minutes on the feet with that volume if you're not touching her up. And she's very good at winning minutes on the ground, Brady. I mean, you look at those grappling numbers for her. I mean, they both have excellent UFC grappling metrics. But Rose's fights stay standing about 74% of the time. Amanda's fight stays standing about 61% of the time. And Amanda's winning about 80% of the control time positions in her fights, out controlling her opponents 31% to 8%. She is a very efficient grappler, way above average 51% takedown offense, way above average 87.5% takedown defense. All the control time grappling numbers here are all almost elite here for the division. So Amanda's going to be able to win minutes in this fight. And if you look at the strength of schedule numbers, they do definitely lean Rose. Obviously, she was champion. She's been in 2 different weight classes already and has had rematches against the toughest fighters in the division in Young Jacek, Wei Li, Jessica Andrade, and then the worst fight of all time against Carla Esparza. But that's kind of a one-off, Brady. So I think Rose is looking pretty good right now. She's still only 31 years old. Amanda's 30. I don't know, man. I'm leaning Rose. I think Rose gets the job done. I think she's probably the moment winner in this fight, and you've got 5 rounds to find that moment. But Ribas is a good minute winner, and Ribas is 5-1 in decisions overall, 4-1 in the UFC, while Rose is 4-3. And Rose had better show some urgency in this fight. Whether it's maybe throwing a little more volume on the feet. Maybe it's mixing in a takedown or 2 of her own, but I don't think that's the way to beat Amanda. I think the way is to, test that chin. Test that chin of Amanda Ribas. She's been knocked out 3 times in 4 losses. It's gotten to the point now where we have to worry about Amanda Ribas's durability. While we don't have to worry about that so much, I don't think, with Rose, especially against an opponent like Ribas. I think Ribas is submission or bust against Rose in terms of being able to finish a fight. So yeah, I think Rose is going to be the rightful favorite here, and I think she's going to get the dub. 5 rounds, kind of interesting, but yeah, I got to lean Rose here because of the strength of schedule, the higher level competition, and the more power and the more ability to win moments wherever the fight goes.
Yep, I like it. I like Rose quite a bit as well, and I'm decently confident in her as well. Let's see, we got Pink bringing up a solid point here. Always hard trusting Rose, but she did well. Yeah, Rose hurt her hand like early in that fight against Manon. I think I forget which round, but I know it was like somewhat early. How would Ribas do versus Manon? I mean, that fight would go very badly for Ribas, I think. I think Manon probably knocks her out. Yeah, that durability for Ribas is a concern. This is going to be Ribas's first 5-round fight, right?
Yes,
sure.
so far.
Yeah.
So far in the UFC, definitely this is her first one.
Yeah, Rose has been in plenty of 5-round fights against plenty of good fighters. I mean, 2 wins against Shang Wei Li. Fought the much better competition. It's not even close. And it's not like she's like so much older than Ribas either. Like what, a year or less than a year. So yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons to like Rose for sure. So yeah, Rose minus 177, minus 180 now, just refreshed it. And then Amanda Ribas is currently plus 155. So we have totals on 12 fights besides the main event, at least not on Fight Odds. We can check Bet Online. You see one on Bet Online? I'll check it now.
I didn't see it. I filled out my prop template with all of the over-unders, and the only one that they didn't have was this one, and it's kind of strange.
Yeah, like why?
Yeah, their algorithm might have like a little bit of a problem pricing this thing. It might give them a really wide range, and they don't know whether they want to put it at 4.5 or 3.5. You got Ribas's durability problems to take into account. Yeah, I don't know why they waited on only the total for the main event. That's just odd.
That is weird, really weird. Finish side on who? I don't know. I just think Amanda Ribas's durability is kind of an issue. She's been knocked out 3 times. We saw Barber knock her out. I think she got knocked out by like Polyana Viana, I think, outside the UFC, and then she also was knocked out by who else knocked out?
It was Barber and oh god. Damn it.
Oh, Marina Rodriguez in the
yeah, Rodriguez
round.
Yeah, that's right. 2nd round knockout, I believe.
Yeah, so could maybe see like a Rose KO, but yeah, no total yet, which I think is kind of interesting there.
I don't know why.
All right. Yeah, Rose hasn't fought 5. The last time she fought 5 rounds against Carla Esparza, but that wasn't a fight. Nobody fought in that fight, so that doesn't really count. The last time she fought in a 5-round fight was against Zhang Weili. That was the last time she fought in a 5-round fight.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting. But yeah, Amanda, same thing. She hasn't fought 5 rounds yet either. So,
yep, 100%. All right, Weezy, we did it. We broke down this entire card. Any final thoughts on the card, and then also your plans for some content? This is your last week at home before you head out on vacation, right?
and go out to Europe for 2 weeks. So it's going to be a long couple of weeks traversing through Paris, Pisa, Bologna, Tuscany, then Rome, then back to Chicago. So we're going to be all over the place here for the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to be hitting it hard this week, breaking down these fights. And then maybe like 2 weeks from now, I think I'll take a little bit of a break. But that Atlantic City card is going to be fire. I'll try to cover that one from France. But as far as this week, all the usual content, DFS show right here on Pub Sports Radio Wednesday. Tuesday night, Just the Tip with Uncle Weezy. Maybe Wednesday night I might do an Ask Weezy or something else. But all the usual stuff, and going to look for some spots to cash or stack cash tickets like flapjacks on this card, but not much sticking out just yet, Brady. Gonna have to dig a lot deeper here.
Yep. Oh, and by the way, me and you might do Stat Diggers Saturday after these fights, right?
Yeah, Saturday night after the fights, because I'm flying out on Sunday at like noon, and I'm not going to get to Europe until after midnight, I think, on Sunday night America time. So it would just be much easier if I could land and then just, not do any content for a day or two.
Holy crap, dude. I hope this is wrong, but right now they're saying that this card on Saturday starts at 7
p.m.
And if that's Eastern time, so if that's the case, we'd be doing the show at like 2 in the morning to like 4.
Oh boy. Dude, usually these Apex cards that aren't great, like they start them at like 3 or 4.
I know. It says, I'm hoping it's wrong, but it says 7 on Tapology right now.
Oh, for God's sake. Well, stay tuned. We're going to try to figure this out because, like I said, it's not going to be possible for me. I am not doing Stat Diggers at like 8 a.m. on Sunday. Fuck that. Not before going to the airport. So we're going to have to figure this out. I don't know, man. We might have to get an AI version of me here on the screen for this one. But yeah, if this card starts at 7 Eastern, that's going to be, stay tuned. We're going to have to try to figure out when next week's Stat Digger is going to be.
Goodness. Bros, we need a weekly Stat Digger show. Well, I got good news for you. We have been doing it weekly for like the last couple years at M. So yeah, there you go. But yeah, I mean, I guess we could do it before the card, but even then, it's like I don't know, because I have a best bet show as well on Saturday.
Oh,
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out, man.
Are you flying on a Boeing plane?
Yeah, it'll be American Airlines, so I think they're all Boeings.
Best of luck.
Yeah.
Best of luck.
I don't want to die in a plane crash. So
no, you're good. You're good. You'll be good, Weezy. All right. So anyway, we'll figure out the schedule for this upcoming Stat Diggers. As always, I'll be getting out some content tomorrow. Planning on maybe doing a main event breakdown either tonight or early tomorrow, and then getting my full card breakdown out Monday, and then the rest of the usual content. Sorry, I'm like falling asleep right now. All right, guys, like on the way out, subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio, and best of luck for UFC Vegas 89. Payton Talbott versus Cameron Saaiman. We'll see you guys later.